welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're here with another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. My guest today is a wealth strategist with over 35 years of experience in helping people solve for their life plans, reduce tax exposure, and have open, honest dialogues around their money and their future. That's just scratching the surface. Let's dig in with my friend, Robin Edgar. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Heck yeah. You're one person I've been wanting to have on this show. One, because we alluded to the 35 years of experience. And I think just, about the time this podcast is going to drop, things are going on in the economy that we're all trying to get our hands on. So
Yes.
just being able to, you've weathered a lot of storms. And so this is just some more rough waters. So let's talk about that a little bit, but I'm excited to share your story. You've got a hell of a story, and as I've gotten to know you over the years, this has been one that I've been targeting and want to share. So thanks again for being on the show.
No, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be able to be here. I've listened to so many of the podcasts, and I just learned something from every single person that's in C9. It's just an amazing opportunity to learn from others.
Yeah, well, it's time for you to drop some knowledge bombs, but we got to tell your story first. So. Tell me a little bit about growing up. So family dynamics and where. And I know that there's an Iowa component in here somewhere, but I don't want to step on that touchdown call. So tell me a little bit about what it was like to grow up.
Yeah, so both of my parents were born and raised in the Mason City, Iowa area, just south of the Minnesota border on I-35 near Clear Lake. Most everybody that's listening is probably driven by that exit 100 times. So yeah, born and raised there. And when I was about 12 years old, my dad was a semi driver and he got transferred to northern Minnesota for a job. So we moved up there and I started sixth grade up there in Aiken. So I know there's people in C9 that know where that is.
Oh, yeah.
Up in the Brainerd Lakes area,
Yeah.
A beautiful area. And I had three younger brothers and my mom and dad, we all trekked up there. And until a few years ago, that's where my mom and dad lived. So they lived there a long time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of home, graduated from high school there, then ended up back in Iowa after that. So yeah, I've had Iowa and Minnesota connections. So that's kind of the early years.
Yeah, and I think everyone kind of thinks about Iowa being a pretty, rural area, except for a couple of the city centers. Mason City's a pretty decent sized town, but then going from, a pretty decent sized town in Iowa to northern Minnesota, Aiken's pretty small. So was there a little bit of culture shock in some of that?
Well, we actually lived outside in the rural part of Mason City. We actually lived near Plymouth, and I went to actually elementary school in Plymouth, Iowa. So Plymouth was, I don't know, a few hundred people. So Aiken was actually a pretty sizable step up, but we've always lived in the country. So, you kind of are immune a little bit to the size of the town. At least when I was growing up decades and decades ago, living out in the country was a huge blessing. And I went from, although it was Mason City area, it was a really, really small town that I went to elementary school in.
Yeah. And your family dynamic is fascinating because you're the oldest of four and the only female in the family. And there's been a couple of things we're going to talk about some of the other things you've had that have kind of helped shape who you are. And were you a good kid? And were you trouble at all? Or were you the typical like firstborn to where you were like pretty type A personality? Me and you share a lot of these same responsibilities, right? Of being a firstborn.
Yes, I was trying to be a straight A student and was pretty much in school, in sports, volleyball, basketball, track. I lettered in track in 8th grade, which is pretty unusual. But once again, the thing I liked about track was it's all about performance. There's no subjectivity like there is in volleyball or other team sports. And so I was one of the fastest girls in the school. And so I lettered in track in 8th and 9th grade. And that was pretty exciting. Got to be, gave me an opportunity to be around the older kids and really, once again, learn a lot from people that were older and wiser. Was in choir and band and was student council. So had a lot of stuff going on and really, really enjoyed my, junior high and high school years.
So as you were kind of planning through, let's call it like middle school and then into high school, what was on the horizon for you? Were you thinking about going to college after that? You were if you're pretty focused on getting good grades and planning on what the next stage is, I got to imagine that that was on the horizon.
Yep, my favorite class in high school was drum roll accounting. So
Shocker.
I had a great accounting teacher. Was a great mentor. It came very naturally to me. I all the studying kind of came easy to me, but
Yeah.
really, really loved accounting. I think that I am one of those people that has a lot of left brain and right brain tendencies. So it was my way of using that left brain for what it was put there for, and just really loved the structure of accounting and was good at it. So I just thought, I'd go to college and get my accounting degree, and didn't really not think much past that, to be honest. Probably is, I think that's pretty normal, probably even today, even though we
Yeah.
kind of pressure kids to think more about it. As you and I both know, many of the people that are out there in the workforce, most are not even working in the field they went to college in. So
Right.
I think that we've all learned that college is kind of this rite of going into your adulthood. But yeah, thought about accounting. Well, that was my plan, is to graduate and go to college. Didn't know for sure where, but to get an accounting degree. And after that, didn't really have much planning or prep in my mind at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So isn't it fascinating how, like, when you're at a pretty formidable age, or let's call it high school, and when you meet that teacher, or you meet that mentor at that young age, you might have a little bit of an inkling, but once that person helps kind of show you the light of the things that are almost like a little bit of your superpowers, things just start to come together. Now, kind of segue into another huge aspect of your life. At a young age, you went through a major paradigm shifting event. And one of the things we talk about
Yes.
in this show is paradigm shifting events that help make you an entrepreneur or a leader. And then also that kind of that nature versus nurture dynamic. So let's talk about the paradigm shifting event that happened at a young age. I'll let you go with it.
Yeah. So, not a planned event at all, but sometimes people find themselves in the most unexpected positions. And I ended up getting pregnant when I was a junior in high school, and ended up having a child in December of my senior year, before I graduated. And that really kind of changed everything in life,
Yeah.
to say the least. And I had the daughter, went back to school a couple weeks later, finished out my high school years, actually went to high school all through my pregnancy. And it wasn't until years later that I thought back and said, I didn't ask if I could come to school. These are kind of unique things.
Yeah, right.
I just knew I was going to go back to school. Obviously, I wasn't going to be playing sports, but the
Right.
sports team put me on as scorekeepers, and I still participated and traveled with the team. And other than physically looking pregnant, everyone in high school really treated me the same as they had
That's
my
awesome.
entire life. And I think it was probably harder on my brothers. They were younger than me in school, and not until years later you hear about, things that they had to kind of go through, but, nobody said it at the time. And I think the high school, quite frankly, didn't know what to do with me. And I'm just like, I'm going to school.
Yeah.
I'm having this baby, and and they really, quite frankly, probably, Aaron, just didn't know what to do. And so they did what most people did, which was nothing. They're like, we
Right.
just gonna
Sit on
let
their
her be
hands.
in school here. And that's what they did. And they were very gracious about it.
One of the things I appreciate about you is you have a very strong personality, and you have a lot of conviction in your thoughts. And I'm not going to go like as far as saying like opinionated at all, but I do think like if there's something that you need to share, you're not going to shy away from sharing it. Were you that same way when you were going through all this? Is that just part of how you were born, or is that something that you developed over time through a situation like that, and then all the other curveballs that you get thrown through life?
Yeah, I wasn't like that at all. I mean, I wasn't afraid to. answer questions or do what I needed to do or step up and, be the scorer on the team or whatever they needed. But as far as being as opinionated, which is an okay word
Air quotes.
you
Yeah.
use for me,
Yeah. All right.
it wasn't really that way. I was a lot more introverted, I think, when I was going to school. And it's still fun, still involved with the kids and did a lot of things. But no, probably if nothing else, I always tell people that this is probably what gave me the strong backbone that I
Yeah.
have today. Because when people say they have it rough or whatever, I'm just like, well, just imagine, I've told both of my daughters as they were complaining about their college years or different things. And I'm like, oh, just imagine having a 3-year-old right now, and that would be enough for them to be
Right.
like, oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I knew it was the right thing. I knew it's what I wanted to do and never had a second guess about that. I know I probably wasn't the only girl in high school that got pregnant. I was just the
Right.
only one that had the kid. And that's
Right.
what I say. And so it definitely was a defining moment. It definitely made me grow up a lot quicker. And I definitely, kind of needed to get out of the area. Went back and lived with my grandma down in Mason City and went to high school
Mm.
or college there and
Cool.
just got a job and started working and had the tremendous support of my family. But my parents had 3 other boys to raise and they weren't, financially well off. But it was a great fit for me to be able to go back and live with my grandma who just passed away a couple years ago at 104. So she had life and, our whole life.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine that world. Like, think about all that you went through in that time, the social pressures that go along with that, But I think one of the things that's pretty cool about that story is that, you got treated no different, right? And I think that
Correct.
there's not a lot of people that the social pressures probably is what probably forces people to move out, where you made a conscious decision that you just wanted to raise a child and start a new life going back to Iowa. So I don't know. I think, life works in the universe works in mysterious ways and like pointing you in the right direction and kind of guiding you and showing you the way. And it probably afforded some cool opportunities. So you went to school and you worked at the same time. Did you go to school during the day and then work at night, or did you go to work during the day and did you go to school at night?
Well, I originally went back to a community college there in the Mason City area and was doing that kind of full time, living with my grandmother. Went and applied for food stamps, which was super difficult
Wow.
for
Yeah.
me. But, my family said, this is what these programs are here for, is there to help people get through short stints of time where you need those. And it's always been something that's kind of stuck in my mind is that these programs are there for short periods of time for people that are going through unexpected situations. And it makes you appreciative of, the nonprofits and the people that were there to support. I had a nonprofit that helped with childcare. And for anybody that knows me, when we're talking about a lot of these things, I think childcare is super important. And I think that, sometimes we give people a lot of money for a lot of things, but if we could, as a country, support subsidizing more of the childcare so that the mother has the ability to have a purpose to really, give back and show kids how to work. Once again, I think you show your family, it's the tongue in your shoe, not the tongue in your mouth. And I learned that, years later, as I was doing all this nonprofit work and volunteer work, those were stories that I actually told when I did United Way presentations or when I was out asking for money, because we never know when us or some member of our family is going to be put in a position that we just could have never expected. I also
Yeah.
think it's been what's helped me be, a really good wealth advisor and wealth strategist is because of those life experiences and my ability
Yeah.
to actually bring those into conversations that I'm having with clients about. We never know when the T moments, in my world, we call them T moments. We have multiple T moments in our life, and it's when you come to a T intersection and you can no longer go straight ahead. You either
Mm.
have to make a right turn or a left turn. If you think about your life in that way, you have, literally hundreds of probably T moments that you experience.
Right.
And I really think it's important for people to think ahead. And I've been able to articulate and just use my experience with clients to really make them feel like, oh, I'm dealing with someone that, has had to, pull herself up by her bootstraps. So then I went to work a year after that because I needed to start working. It wasn't the profession that I wanted to be in at that time. It was mechanical design because the people at the college said, "You're a single mother. You should go into this field because they'll hire you. They need women in this field." And once again, it's a life lesson that I have that I'm very vocal about, which is if you're not passionate about something, it doesn't matter, how many people they're hiring in that profession. So long story short, went and worked, met my now husband, Michael, got married, had another daughter. I needed to find a job, no longer working there, needed to find a job. And I was going to school then at nights from 5:30 to 10:30, 2 nights a week for my accounting degree. So I had 2 kids, a spouse, a house, a full-time job, and I was going to school at night. And, a lot of people would say it's, wow, going to school. And I'm like, it wasn't the going to school that was the hard part. It was the finding time to study that was hard. Because when you're at home, I went to school Mondays and Thursday nights, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I mean, you're busy making up for lost time with your family and cleaning the house and all the other stuff that you do. But my family was super supportive. My work was supportive. So I took what I called a no-brainer job, which I became a receptionist at a broker dealer because I needed to really, I had applied at a few other places and they're like, "You're better off waiting till you graduate from college. We can pay you probably twice as much if you come back once you graduate." And that was one of my first eye-opening things that I learned is, people with a college degree are going to come in at a much more elevated position in the world than somebody. I'm like, "You mean I'm going to be managing people that have worked here for 10 years? And they're like, "Yep, that's how it goes."
Wow.
And so I was, you can call me green, green behind the ears. But at that point, it was kind of amazing to me. So I went and worked and got a job as a receptionist at a broker dealer. I didn't even know what a mutual fund was at that point. My family had never saved. They had never invested. We never really talked about money. And I had nothing saved, obviously. Didn't even know what a mutual fund was. And within 3 months, I got pretty bored at that. And the owner of the firm came to me one day and said, "Robin, I think you should get your securities license. I think you'd be a really good financial advisor." Now realize I was still in my 20s at this point. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I walked, I was in his office and he recommended this to me and I went, "What do you mean? I'm smart enough to be an accountant," just like that. And he goes, Robin, yeah, you're smart enough to do whatever you want. The thing is, you're not going to be happy being an accountant. I could see you really being happy being a financial advisor." And once again, that moment in time is a huge moment in my life and one that I talk about all the time with people, that other people can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. And I think that's a huge part of like what you do at Coalition9 and the groups that you put together. A lot of really brilliant people that have been really successful, but a lot of times other people can see in you things that you can't see in yourself. And I learned that at a very young age. So long story short, I was doing all of that and studying for my Series 7 securities license on top of everything else I was doing. And that was the beginning of what became, just a wonderful career. And he mentored me. I sat in meetings with him, listening to how he overcame objections and how he talked about this stuff, with his clients. Eventually, he sold the broker dealer. I stayed with the new broker dealer and eventually took over really all of his clients because we were developing technology in that firm at the same time. And that technology is now, a multi-million dollar company that is in the securities industry. And I helped them kind of, create that technology early on because they did it right inside the firm. So it's a unique story, but it's one in which the lessons that I learned through that process are still with me today. And I really think have helped to make me, much better at what I do in dealing with people because of those hurdles that, we've had to overcome.
Well, let's take a quick break here. We're going to listen to a few of our community supporters, but I do want to come back because I was thinking of a couple of questions that I want to ask about that transition into becoming a wealth strategist. So let's take a quick break here. Let's listen to a few of our community supporters, and we're going to come back with Robin right after this.
Looking for an insurance partner who is as invested in your success as you are? Christensen Group is Minnesota's largest employee-owned independent insurance agency. Since 1952, we've been connecting businesses and individuals with tailored expertise and solutions to manage risk and protect what matters most. Ready to get ahead of your risk? Call Christensen Group today at 952-653-1000. Christensen Group Insurance, because better tomorrows start with thoughtful todays.
Tradition Capital Bank is a local bank that has the products and capabilities to service middle-market companies, nonprofits, and their owners, employees, and families by offering a high-touch approach paired with customizable solutions. Think of them as your nimble allies serving with generosity, care, and precision. Tradition starts with the assumption that there's always more to learn, try, and discover, aiming to find the best yes for whomever they have the privilege of working beside. From a foundation of trust, Tradition takes disciplined, smart risks to help people grow beyond what they even thought possible. Tradition Capital Bank is the second largest privately owned bank headquartered in the Twin Cities and with locations in Edina, Wayzata, and North Oaks, Minnesota. Alongside their office in Scottsdale, Arizona, Tradition Capital Bank is committed to big bank offerings with a small bank ethos. Let their team be the friend you need in your next financial move. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at bouleygroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at Insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference.
Leading a growing organization means knowing when to bring in strategic expertise. At All-in-One Accounting, we understand that your financial needs evolve as you scale. We're more than just accountants. We're trusted partners who align our expertise with your vision, driving sustainable growth through expert financial leadership. From day-to-day bookkeeping to high-level strategy, we help you grow profitably, protect your assets, and amplify your impact. Consider us your partner for both immediate financial clarity and long-term strategic success. Connect with us at allinoneaccounting.com.
Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. All right, we're back here with Robin Edgar. Robin, I got to tell you, like, if you want to talk about a story of resiliency and then, having to gut it out and having to do, double duty, triple duty, right? In some respects that you were having to do because you were going to school, you're getting your Series 7, and then you're also a mom, right? And a wife.
Mm-hmm.
So you're juggling a lot of different things. So let's go back to that time where you're going down the path. You are officially a financial advisor. Do you remember your first client that you got on your own, that you advised? And do you remember your first client?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And was that a good experience? Because I think one of the things that I think is really fascinating about you and your style is that you may come across as being a really strong personality, but I think also that you have a soft inside, right? And so your style is just very different. But I also, the cool thing about you is that I feel you're very strong in advocating for people, but I don't really feel like you have a strong sales style. Like, I don't feel like you're an aggressive salesperson or anything like that. And I think that the industry that you're in has a little bit of a bad knock on it because there's so many people that are a little too aggressive. How have you built now over all these years, like I alluded to, 35 years, how have you built your book of business and, in tandem with taking over your mentor's business to be to the style that you wanted to do it, but not having to be so aggressive?
Yeah. Well, I think the difference is really very simple. It's strategy versus transactions. I'm a strategist, and what I learned early on is I was always begin with the end in mind. Early in my career, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's the number one business book of all times. And I say that to people that will listen. If you have not read that book, or even if you've read it, it might be time to go back and dust it off. But we had a study group inside the broker dealer, and they taught us about 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I would say that was really what instigated and motivated a lot of my understanding, as I was really trained by people that cared about the entire person. And that's what we focused on. And that we needed to begin with the end in mind, which today is still one of my primary core values in my company. And people are sick of hearing me say that, but I'm always thinking about begin with the end in mind. Where are we going? How are we getting there? What should we be doing? And helping people to understand what they're doing today that impacts and has the ability to help them get to where they want to be tomorrow. You learn very quickly in this industry that people are not financially where they want to be today. And they always think about, like, I've got to make such major life changes, to be able to hit my target or get this number or be where someone else is helping me. And what I did very quickly was realize that I needed to do my strategy sessions, which I still do to this day, the 90-minute strategy session that changes people's lives and their understanding about finances. And it's really from here to dead. And that's kind of what I call it. So, my approach is to say it how it is, because I also learned at a very young age that people don't understand, like, beating around the bush or trying to be nicey about how am I explaining what you need to do to be financially secure. And they would walk away after an hour meeting and be like, okay, but I can take that money out whenever I want, right? And I'm just like, were we just not in the same room for the last hour? So
You're not listening.
Yes. So instead of having people come in and say, here's how much I have to invest, because this is the mantra that most people have. Here's how much I have to invest. What should I put it in? And depending on whoever you're talking to, they're just doing a transaction. Yes, they might be asking a few things and stuff, but in general, and I feel like after 35 years, I can critique our industry a little bit. It's not about the transaction or the investment. It's more about how does what we're trying to do today fit into your overall strategy. And I needed people to understand that, you know what, Aaron, dead could be tomorrow or dead could be 50 or 60 years from now. We need to be prepared for both. Because if dead tomorrow comes, we need to make sure that your family's protected. So instead of just talking about, well, this is how life insurance works, I came at it from a very different approach. I said, here are all the different things that you need to be thinking about, Mr. and Mrs. Client, from here to dead. And like I said, and I'll put them all on the board. Let's look at those. And then let's say, what do you currently have? Like, what do you have in your short-term bucket? What do you have in your long-term bucket? And what do you have for insurance and all of these different pieces? And I actually draw it out for them without never asking them once what they currently have or what they've currently done in the past, but saying, this is what I've learned over the years, that you really need to have your overall portfolio. When you get to retirement at the end, this is how it should look: a third in alts, a third in the stock market, and a third in what I call a personal pension plan or a guaranteed account. And I would begin with the end in mind so that they could say, oh, yeah, she's not trying to sell me a product. She's trying to really solve for, how do I create enough cash flow? And I think that's part of it, Aaron, is people are focused on how much money do I have saved versus how much cash flow can I get from that? Because the bottom line for me is I've helped hundreds of people transition into retirement. And none of them are caring about, like, where the market is today or tomorrow or any specific little thing, because we've set it up 100% focused on how much cash flow do you need each and every year to be able to live the lifestyle you're accustomed to. And so I really focus on the budget. I don't care if you make 100,000 or 50,000 or 10 million. We need to know what that budget is and what the target is. And quite frankly, my biggest concern, and people have heard me say this, is people that are making between 400 or 300 and $600,000, $700,000 is Those people are living a pretty good life. They're not probably having to worry about, the day-to-day, like what they're spending on things. And yet, if you think about how much money do I need to have saved to generate $400,000 a year in income without using my principal, that is a lot of money that needs to be put away. And I can't make very many guarantees in life, but I can guarantee you that just maxing out your 401k is never going to get you where you need to be for that type of income. So once again, it depends on what people's lifestyle is. And I really strategically just spend a lot of time on strategy. A lot of times it's 2 or 3 meetings in before we even talk about what people are specifically doing or how they're doing it. But it also makes it easy for me. Like today, when a client calls that I've been working with for years, I'm like, what bucket are we talking about? What do we want to do? How do we want to capture whatever it is we're doing? And so the strategy has been the big differential. And when people come in and go through that strategy session, their lives are really changed. Even if they decide not to work with me, they know what questions to ask their current advisor and making their advisor, really better at what they're doing to helping them achieve their goals.
And so you've seen a lot of, so let's call whether it's mutual funds or if it's life insurance, whatever, those are all tools, right? So those are
Correct.
tools in your toolbox. Which tool do you think is the most underutilized by someone that has got what we'll call an average income and an average level of wealth? I'm not talking a super high, I would say the amount of people that listen to this podcast or whatever, I'm not going to put a ton of those in the high net worth bucket. So let's just call it, relatively middle range, right? What do you think tool is underutilized?
Well, I think maybe 2 things. One is the Roth IRA or the Roth 401k, the tax-free bucket that the Roth can create. And secondly, people don't know about the other tax-free bucket that can be created is a life insurance contract. A life insurance can be used as a living benefit and a death benefit, and people don't understand that. And I think it's a Swiss Army knife out there. A lot of times people just don't understand when you use the word insurance, people just automatically turn off. It's like they're doing one of these things. And I on purpose don't talk about it as insurance. I don't talk about a lot of the investments in the name of what the investment is. I talk more about what is the strategy behind what we're doing. If you could pay less in taxes, if you could have more tax-free income when you retire, would you be interested in knowing about what types of investments you could make that could do that? And when I ask the question that way, most people are like, for sure, I'd rather have a lot more, tax-free income. I have, as I said, hundreds of people that have retired. And guess what most of them say? Most of them are baby boomers, obviously. The Roth wasn't around. And, now they're paying tax on all of this money that they put into a traditional retirement account. And now they're saying, I wish I had more tax-free income because every dollar I take out, Uncle Sam gets $1 for that. So if I back up the bus and say, we've learned a lot of lessons over the years, what I hear these retired people saying is, I wish I would have paid more tax along the way. And so that's part of strategy when we're talking about it. What does that look like for you? I run, I have a tax program that I have, I buy the software for a tax program and I run my clients' tax returns through it. And it gives me a really nice 2 or 3 page report, tells me exactly what tax bracket they're in, how close they are to the next bracket. And we actually use that to strategize about trying to keep them out of the next tax bracket. And then also gives me 15 or 20 bullet points of here's what Aaron could do, to actually reduce his taxes. So I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, I'm not trying to be your tax advisor, but as a wealth strategist, we do not have enough wealth strategists and financial advisors that understand the power of tax solutions because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So I'm really, really focused with people on what is the best way for them to kind of slice and dice the money that they have. It always begins with a budget. As I already said, I want to know what your discretionary money is. And when we know what that is and we can figure out what bucket should that be put in and how does that help you get to your cash flow even earlier. I think your generation, one thing I see with the younger generations is, the purpose and the life and all of those types of things are important. A lot of people don't want to do the same thing for their entire career. We see a lot of people transitioning out of corporate in their 40s and 50s. If you've developed a great strategy and a sound strategy plan and not throwing everything over the wall into the 59 and a half retirement bucket, it's one of the things that I talk about right in my meetings, and I have it right on the worksheet is, what if I want to start a business? What if I want to do something different? You've got to have money outside of your 401k plan to be able to do that. And I find most people do not. And that's something I'm really trying to help people realize, is that pre-retirement, pre-59 and a half investments that you do outside can give you tax benefits. It's also ways I can help people get into the endowment model. We're very big on the endowment model instead of just stocks and bonds and CDs and things like that, and mutual funds and annuities. We want people to be in real estate and private equity and, a whole oil and gas, a whole plethora of things that most people have never heard of, and most people in my profession don't know anything about and don't put their people into. So once again, just really love learning. Going to my conference next week, my annual conference. All of our sponsors are there, and we just do a lot of things, Aaron, that are very different. Not better or worse, just different. And I need to have people that are listening to this be empowered to say, what are the questions I should be asking my advisor? And how can I better formulate a better list of questions? On my website, I have 12 questions you should ask your financial advisor. And I had somebody come in last week that had gotten that from me, that works with someone else. And they're like, man, these were really good questions. And I couldn't even ask all 12 because I had a feeling that they were going to get very, very upset if I asked all 12 of these. So I only asked 3 or 4. And I'm like, what does that tell you? And it's like, they didn't need to say what I told them. I'm like, you should be able to ask your trusted advisors, whether they're attorneys or CPAs or financial advisors or whoever they are, really good questions. And I think I try to train people. What are those questions that you should be asking? Because you're going to get better outcomes if you ask better questions.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your opinion on gold and silver? I was talking to a person last week that they love investing in gold and silver, and they have taken it to the point to where they have gold bars and silver in their home in a safe. Like this individual swears by the fact that it just incrementally grows and it's the most stable investment that you can make. I don't know. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, good answer. So I can't recommend
No
gold and silver and commodities. And I just have to say again, the disclaimer is I'm not giving individual advice. I'm not telling people, what they should be doing. But I do think that a diversified portfolio means that you would have commodities and, crypto and other things in it, even though that's not something that I can sell people or talk to. I think from a personal standpoint, it's good to have those. But once again, how are you owning those products? Bars are not necessarily the best way to own those products. I tell people, only because I was educated in a prior broker dealer where we could offer gold, that you'd want to own the Eagle coins and things. So talk to people from a tax standpoint. There's a different taxation if you own the coins versus the bars. Very, very different tax situation. And so also, I always ask people if you really needed to use this in real world, because that's a lot of the people that own those things feel like if the dollar ever went away or something dramatic happened. If you're going down the store to buy a loaf of bread and hamburger and you got, a big, huge bar, like, what are you going to do with the bar versus the coin? So once again, not making investment advice. I do not offer commodities in my office, but these are all things that obviously I have knowledge of, and just feel like, once again, you need to be asking questions like, what's the taxation difference between buying coins or buying gold bars? Very, very different taxation.
Fascinating. Never would have guessed that. So, let's go back to a business perspective then. So, at the end of the day too, that is your role, and that is something that you're very passionate about, is being a wealth strategist, but you also have a firm, and you have people that are you've said it multiple times that, you obviously don't offer commodities in your office. So you've got other advisors that you're mentoring now. So now this flywheel is happening that you experienced when you were at a young age. How long from when you onboard a new strategist to when you feel like they're up to par on your philosophy and the style that you do things? Because I think wealth management, there's a lot of different variables to what there is to learn, and it takes a while for you to get that time. Where do you feel like someone's started to hit their stride?
I think it takes, with a lot of businesses, but especially in this field, it's going to take at least 3 to 5 years for people to really fully understand what's going on. So if I'm an investor, going in to work with someone, that would be a good question to ask someone. Tell me, how long have you been doing this? How much of your own money do you have in the investments that you're recommending for me? Now, if they're young or if they're older, they may or may not have the same thing, but they should have an answer for that. When I bring a wealth strategist in, most of them do not have experience in the alternative space because they've not been at a firm that offers some of those offerings that we have.
Yep.
So the latest one, I have Todd, who's in the Mason City area, taking care of a lot of the clients that I have down there. He was an advisor for 5 years with another firm. And when he joined me, it took about a year and a half before he's even kind of comfortable on his own talking about a lot of the alternatives. So he was very versed in insurance. He was very versed in annuities. He was very versed in mutual funds. But that is a very, very narrow window of what I think your financial advisor or your wealth strategist should really be knowledgeable on. You also need to understand what's going on in the world and you need to be watching the tea leaves and listening to the people on TV, because the clients will start doing that, but they'll start doing that only when the market's going crazy. And I prefer to tell them, unless you're listening to it on a regular basis, you probably shouldn't be listening to it when things are really, really good or really, really bad in the market.
Yeah. 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 So, you've been doing this for 35 years. We've said that multiple times over and over. So I'll just stop saying that. But at the end of the day, you're coming into a time of your life where, I think you even said on your prep form here, as you referred to it, as in your fourth quarter. So you're approaching some of the same things that you've been preparing your clients for. But I don't see the motor in you slowing down at all. So I don't think not working is a thing. So how are you building your fourth quarter, and what do you got planned for the future with both your firm and then some of the work that you want to do?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron, for asking. Yes, I need to be prepared from here to dead, right?
Right.
Dead could be tomorrow, or dead could be 20 years from now or 30 years
Right.
from now. Who knows? And so I had a grandma that lived to 104. So, and I do say all the time that the ornery ones live the longest. So I'm probably here for a long time. And so I always kidded her about that when she got older, and she's like, "You're gosh darn right, Robin. Those of us that are ornery are probably going to hang around longer." So, but yeah, I'm building out my team, still looking for another 1 or 2 advisors to join the firm. And then I'm really, in addition to what I'm doing, I'm not stopping what I'm doing, but because of the tax solutions we have, because of the business that we do with, high net worth people or people that are looking to sell a business, it's really kind of the same strategy as retiring. You have to look at what's your exit plan. And that's been a huge hallmark for me, as I've helped hundreds of people exit for retirement. I've helped a lot of business owners exit, at the same time. They might have owned a business and they're retiring. And what I woke up and kind of learned is statistically about 30% of these small and medium-sized businesses out there, only 30% will actually sell successfully. About 70% of businesses usually just fade away or close up. And I think that when you've got baby boomers here that are, like myself, I'm on the end of the baby boomer phase. When you have all of these baby boomers that have gone out there and built businesses and worked really hard, they haven't thought about exit too much. And what I'm seeing is number one, you and I need those HVAC people. We need those plumbers. We need those people working on our cars. We need all of those trades. Not that we don't need everybody, but I just know all of those businesses out there that they've built something so terrific. What happens if those just fade away or don't open up tomorrow because an owner dies or gets diagnosed or gets sick with something? They really need to have a plan. And also the younger generation, like I said, you guys are building businesses more for what does this business look like for the next 10 years? And then I want to exit it. I don't want to be like my parents and own it until I'm 60 or 70 years old. So we've got a mesh coming together right now, Aaron, of business owners that are really driven to, how do I actually exit? Because we're not beginning with the end in mind when we start a business. When you start a business, you should already be thinking about what is the exit. So whether I'm a person building for retirement or death, or my T moments, as we've been talking about, or whether I'm a business owner, I should really be putting my plan together for my exit as I build, because it's a lot easier to build if you kind of know what does a potential buyer really want. So we're having an event on June 25th. I'm a chief exit officer. And so that's an additional thing that I've been doing for years and years and years. I'm just kind of really formalizing it. And saying to business owners, we really, really need to help you and your families be successful. If your kids want to take over, that's great. A lot of kids don't want to take over. We need to make sure that those valuations, that people know that it doesn't cost that much to do a valuation. What is your business actually worth? What are the leadership and culture and things, as you have so much of that in your programming? How do we build better leadership? How do we build culture? How do we build all those things that we need to make sure that our business is successful? And I have the trusted advisor network. I have people that are M&A experts. I have attorneys that are experienced in M&A, CPAs that are experienced in all of this. And we're coming together doing an event for free for anybody that owns a business, just to give them, here's what you need to know. Here's a checklist of what you should know. Here are things that questions maybe you haven't asked, but things that you can be doing. And I'm super excited because it fits right along with what I'm doing, because also when you sell a business, there's tax consequences to that. So, don't wait till the day when somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm going to offer you $5 million for your business. Please don't sign anything. Once again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. But the minute you sign something, really your opportunity to really get advice and help from other people is limited. And so if we can just back up the bus and say, what do business owners really, really need to know to be able to build with the end in mind? Because that creates a stronger team dynamic too. I mean, if you're working for someone like me that's in their 60s or older, you know that something's going to happen at some point. And you're thinking, if I'm working for them, what if something happens tomorrow? How secure is my job? I'm putting my family's, future on the line with these people. So it's not only about you as the business owner, but it's about your employees. And are you going to be able to keep good employees if the employees feel like, I'm not sure this person has a successful succession plan ready to go? So it's not about not talking about it. I think everybody that comes to the C9 events knows we want full and open discussions with people, and your employees are going to really appreciate it more if you're actually having a discussion around, we're going to work towards a succession plan. I don't plan to leave for 5 or 10 years or whatever their timeline is, but if something happens in the meantime, I want to make sure that you guys are taken care of and that my family's taken care of and that this business lives long past me. That's really the emphasis for what we're doing and how we're building this really succession or exit planning event.
Yeah, and I think too, and we're going to need to transition here into 9 questions, but I will say that anybody, if you're listening to this and you're a business owner and you're a few years out from potentially selling your business, or it's even you're starting to think about it, if you're not having the conversation around a capital gains event, and I think if you were to do the math on it, it's probably going to be closer to 40% is going to be going out the door.
Or
more, right? So if that $5 million example that you gave, there's a potential for half of that to be there for you, and the rest of it is going to go to the government. So have thoughtful conversations about that.
And it could be the structure of your business makes a difference. It could be, learning about the types of investments that you should be making once you sell the business. You should be learning about those before that day even comes. Those are the things that we're going to have at this event for people to just learn. And become more equipped to know what questions should I be asking. You also might not be working with CPAs, attorneys, tax advisors, financial advisors that actually are familiar with this. A lot of people don't necessarily know about exit planning and all those things. So that's why I'm bringing in people that, really know this lane and can help those business owners with what they need to know.
And on top of that, you've got your business, you've got your chief exit officer designation, you've got a couple books up your sleeve. I know that, and one of them is out. So that's the thing. Plus, there's opportunities for speaking. So if that's something that someone might want to bring you in for to speak to their community or something like that, I mean, we'll do how after we wrap up 9 questions, we'll address how people can get a hold of you, and then we'll have a bunch of stuff in the show notes. But
Great.
Let's jump to 9 questions. Little bit more insight on who Robin is. I got some interesting things up my sleeve for this.
That's ought to be fun.
Oh yeah, let's do it. All right, so let's take a quick break here. Listen to a few of our community supporters, and then let's wrap this thing up with 9 questions.
United Healthcare is dedicated to helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone by simplifying the healthcare experience, meeting consumer health and wellness needs, and sustaining trusted relationships with care providers. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.6 million physicians and healthcare professionals in over 6,000 hospitals, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting employers and their employees to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. For more information, visit United Healthcare at www.uhc.com. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives.
Barton, Walter & Cryer CPAs and Business Advisors is a full-service CPA firm providing premier accounting, tax, and consulting services to a wide variety of middle market and small businesses, primarily throughout the Twin Cities Metro and Upper Midwest. Drawing from diverse and varied experience with large Big Four organizations and boutique accounting firms, our team of CPAs and tax professionals delivers innovative, value-added solutions for our clients throughout personalized attention, diligence, and breadth of knowledge. From day one, we've built long-lasting relationships with our clients based on mutual trust and dedication to growth and long-term financial success. Our approach is client-centered. We make your goals our goals and deliver unparalleled service and support that exceeds expectations every time. Find out more at bwkaccounting.com.
Kaisa Wealth Management treats each client like a member of the family. Acting as your personal CFO, we are fiercely devoted to your financial prosperity. At Kaisa, our wealth strategies are aligned with your core values, creating a wealth plan centered around legacies you wish to create. This is our Kaisa commitment. Our wealth strategies are dynamic and tailor-made for your long-term goals because as a fee-only investment firm, excellence in service is not just a promise, it's our baseline. Whether it's selling a business, planning succession, creating a legacy, navigating life challenges like death or divorce, supporting executives on the move, planning retirement, or preserving family wealth, we are here for you. Find out how we can help to simplify your wealth at kaisawealth.com.
Are you a local business owner looking to take your enterprise to the next level? Look no further than Security Bank and Trust Company, your partner in growth. Our dedicated team of smart, experienced bankers understand the unique challenges and opportunities facing businesses like yours. With personalized financial solutions and expert advice, we're here to help you succeed every step of the way. From tailored business loans to cutting-edge digital banking services, Security Bank and Trust is committed to your success. Experience the difference a local bank can make. Visit us today at any of our convenient locations or online at security-banks.com. Security Bank and Trust, growing together.
Verseek Executive, Professional, and Interim Recruiting is an award-winning, locally owned hiring and placement firm based in Minnesota. With specialized practice areas across our 3 divisions, Verseek delivers a tailored experience to a wide range of industries. What sets us apart is our team of recruiters, seasoned professionals who have worked in the very fields they now hire for, providing unmatched industry insight and connections. Verseek believes that people are more than just resumes, they are transformative, unlocking the potential for organizational growth and success. Now let's find your people together. Learn more about Verseek at versique.com.
Are you a sales leader looking to take your skills to the next level so you can help your team grow and drive even more revenue? Let's face it, when most sales leaders got promoted from a salesperson to a sales leader, you didn't get much training or tools or best practices. Nobody taught you about how to define strategy or gave you best practices around hiring and training. Nobody told you the best ways to coach and really develop people or driving accountability or performance management or forecasting. I could go on and on. If you want to learn best practices in these areas and more, and you want to learn from experts and your peers so you can grow, go to www.pivataladvisors.com and specifically check out our sales leader community called the Pivotal Peak Alliance. We would love to talk to you.
In addition to our amazing prospering and thriving level supporters, we want to shine a spotlight on our equally awesome evolving level supporters. Alliant, Bauer Design Build, Beyond Design, Cox Insurance, EOS, specifically Justin Cox, Tom Holleran, and Mike Jones, Madera Partners, Modern Foundation, and Sales Homie.
All of the Coalition 9 community supporters can be found on our website at coalition9.com/community-supporters, or you can find the tab at the top. All right, we're back with Robin. Robin, I got some good stuff for you. So,
Now, I'm blushing before you even ask the question.
I know.
Something.
I know. I'm all red too, because I'm excited about it. All right, good. Can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
I have no idea.
And
no idea.
All right.
Thank
you. You being so thoughtful about other people's money, I want to talk about yours. What is one thing that you actually enjoy spending money on?
Actually, traveling with my family.
Yeah, that's good. Where was your last trip? This is not part of the 9 questions.
Because my oldest granddaughter was studying abroad last year, my 2 daughters, their husbands, and Mike and I went and visited her and went to Italy, and it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, good. Sweet. Love it. This may dovetail into that, maybe not. What is the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
My husband and I went to China many, many years ago on a Chamber of Commerce trip, and I ate one of those fish that had the eyes and everything in it. And I said I would try everything, but a lot of the stuff that I ate there was not appealing visually or palate. Correct.
Yeah. I had sea urchin one time, and it tasted like dirt, and that was the worst thing I've ever eaten in my life. So seafood stuff can be weird. What is one of your hidden talents?
I am really good at sewing and making costumes, and I know how to knit and scrapbooking. So most people would probably not think that I'm one of those people.
Well, you said it. I didn't. One of those people. That's hilarious. What is your favorite meal?
Oh man, a nice big filet steak.
Yeah. What would you have on the side? What's your go-to side with that steak?
I like mushrooms. We do mushrooms and onions. Trying to stay away from carbs, but I have a really, really good recipe where we bake our steaks. It's a Greek recipe, and we do that probably at least once a week or once every 2 weeks, and it's amazing.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, may have to get that recipe from you. I've heard about that. I've never done it. That's awesome.
Yes, it's you'll never cook steak a different way once you do it this way. It's baked in the oven. Most people would not think steak in the oven would be good, but it's all butter and seasonings, and it's perfect every time.
Yeah, sounds Greek. I like that.
I actually have it in my Word docs because so many people have requested the recipe from me.
All right, ship that over, and then we should add that to the show notes. We should we'll add it to the show notes, and so people can get your steak recipe.
I'm not one of those people that doesn't like to share recipes. So
heck yeah, ship that over, and I'll have Brenda add that. That's awesome.
Okay.
Besides your own book and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because I didn't want you to already have the answer to this. What is one book that you've given as a gift the most?
Purpose-Driven Life. Rich, what's his name? Yeah. Purpose-Driven Life. I can't think right now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. That's all right.
Sometimes I don't always remember the author, but Purpose-Driven Life was a great book. I can put that in the show notes also.
All right, good. We'll make sure we'll add that. We'll find that one. That'll be easy. If you could go on a weekend vacation with 2 people, not your family or your husband or anything like that, who would those 2 people be?
One would definitely be Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business. I've grown up watching her, and she's the smartest woman on TV. And probably Jesus.
Yeah. I didn't say alive or dead, so I'm cool with that. I like that.
No,
it'd be a fascinating.
I might not like what I hear, whatever, but I just, I'm really infatuated at this point of my life, and doing good things, and would be interesting to have conversations with him or, someone that could really help me with, that whole aspect of life. So love it.
Yeah. Good answer. Love that. Thoughtful too. What is one opinion that most people in your industry have that you just 100% disagree with?
Oh, just one?
Just one. The one that just burns you.
The one that just burns me is really going back to just the transaction focus, and that everybody's just putting their money into the market and they're paying a fee and they're really not getting strategy, or how is this really going to impact me in the end? It's just the burning issue. And it's not just me, Aaron, it's the people that are on my team. Once they kind of see this, it's just really scary to me that we've got so many people out there riding along thinking that, they are diversified and they're not. And it's very concerning to me.
Yep.
We need to do better.
We heard that loud and clear during the Q&A part of this podcast, but I'm glad you put a cherry on top with that, because I think, you're 100% right.
Well, when you look at, here's a stat, when you look at people that are financially secure and wealthy, how did they get wealthy? They owned a business or they owned real estate 100% of the time. People generally never got rich by putting money in the market. Now, I'm excluding the fact of if you started Facebook, or if right. The general population never got wealthy over putting money in the stock market. Yes, it's a great place to put money once you earned it. But what I've learned, and the mentors that I've listened to, are the people that own businesses and the people that own real estate. They know how to create cash flow. They know how to create leverage. They know how to use their money to grow and have more money. And yes, the market could be a part of it, but we need to help all people, I feel, have a more diversified portfolio. And that comes into that endowment model, and having private equity and having real estate and oil and gas and all of those things that the higher net worth people have. People that are listening to this can have it too. They just need to ask the question and be working with people that can offer that stuff.
Yep. I hear you loud and clear on that one. Okay. 9th question. You made it this far. Besides your significant other, besides Mike, who is your best friend and why?
You want to know the actual truth? Are my 2 daughters are my best friend. And they actually, we talk about this all the time. We hang out together a lot. Not that they don't have other friends, but they said it took them until they were probably 35 or 40 to realize that I was one of their best friends. And that was probably the biggest honor of my life when they said that. So that's where I spend most of my time. And they're very brilliant. You know them. And just love spending time with them. And they're wonderful women. And that's my answer.
Yep, that's a great answer. I was wondering if that was going to be the answer. I was hoping that was going to be the answer, but
it definitely is the answer.
And I am 100% a fan of both of those women as well. So you did a hell of a job as a mom raising those 2 kids. So we'll leave it at that. All right, so we wrapped that up. Nice job. I love that. So I alluded to the fact I want people to get to know you a little bit. So where can people find you on the old interwebs?
So they can go to LinkedIn, Robin Edgar, or Wealth Progression Group. We're under both. On Facebook, I'm under Robin Edgar. You can go to my website, Wealth Progression Group. I have a new website that's just being worked on now, robinedgar.net. That's where you'll find some of the, exit planning and some of the things I'm doing that's outside the financial services industry. So, but you can check me out. Give me a message at Wealth Progression Group. My email, robin.edgar@Wealth Progression Group. Happy to chat with anyone, give people the 12 questions. Maybe we should just put that in the notes also, if you want me to, Aaron. I don't know how much you want me to give away, but I'm happy to. It's one of my things that people love the most, is getting those 12 questions. And I hope people find it useful.
Yeah. Why don't you send that over to me, and I'll have Brenda added to the show notes when we produce the podcast. We'll have this added. On-air production meeting there. All right.
Okay.
Good. Well, I'll tell you, you emulate what I've always wanted C9 to be, is you're scrappy in all the right ways. You're wicked talented and thoughtful, and you bring it. The drive that you have is definitely what we want to build a community around. And I'm just thankful to call you a friend and have you part of this and be able to share your story. Like this one of the things I love about this is I was reading the prep form. There's so much stuff I didn't know about you. That's why I love being able to do this and be able to share it. So you're a gift, Robin, and I'm pumped that more people get to know you.
Well, thank you for doing this. And I've really appreciated getting to know the other C9 people in this way, because I really think that, we all put our pants on the same way. And the C9ers definitely really appreciate getting to know all of us, that are in C9 better. So thank you for your time and effort on this.
Well, C9er or not, reach out to Robin if you want to get to know her better and learn a little bit more about her story. But on behalf of Robin, this has been the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.
You've been listening to the Power of Nine podcast, hosted by Coalition9 founder and CVO, Aaron Eggert. This podcast is produced by Aaron Eggert and Brenda Harview, with editing by Brenda Harview. Our opening and closing graphic was created by Bethany Price, with video graphic animation by Jensen Studios. Special thanks to Coalition9's valued members and community supporters who help make this podcast possible. Connect with our supporters through coalition9.com/community-supporters. Thank you for tuning in to the Power of Nine podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review and subscribe on your favorite platform. This is the podcast of Coalition9, a community of entrepreneurs and leaders changing business 9 leaders at a time. Learn more at coalition9.com. That's coalition and the number 9.com.